Nick Land at Commencement Bay Brokers. It's Monday. It's June 20th. I'm here with my good friend, Keane, one of the best lenders that I know in the country. He's an amazing mind. He knows tons of stuff about the mortgage industry. Keane, how long have you been in the business?
I'm in my 20th year right now.
20th year. He brings a wealth of knowledge. He cares for our clients deeply, takes great care of them. Keane's on today because there's some disruption in the mortgage markets. It's really kind of been happening a long time, but recently there's been some kind of real big movement. And Keane's going to share with you some thoughts on the market and also some opportunities that might be out there for people that are still buying in this market, because there are definitely opportunities out there for the right buyers. So Keane, what's happened most recently in the interest rate market, and what's the impact to the people you've been working with?
Yeah, it's it's emotional reaction to the consumers, but with rates go up, right, the affordability gets adjusted, the cost goes up. Low rates have been one of the heavy incentives for people to want to go buy a home. And, quite frankly, it's, you can only run that course for so long, right? So in one moment, everyone's dying to buy a place, rates move up. Now everyone's freaking out, thinking that, things are going to crash. And, it's the Mr. Market version of real estate, right? People love real estate one moment, freaking out the next, and opportunities happen in both places. So
I think that was the point that we talked about the other day. And, honestly, when you said that, it really kind of clicked in some thoughts for me too. It's something I haven't been thinking about, because, we kind of think about the clients that we're serving right now. And a lot of the clients that we're serving right now had really good opportunities, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, and they're still trying to find a home based on what was happening 3 or 4 months ago. But the market shifted. And so their strategy, their opportunity, some of those things may have shifted too. And the people that have opportunities right now may be different than the people that were looking 4 or 5 months ago. So what opportunities are you seeing in the market right now with the leverage that's available?
Yeah, well, I'm going to preface it with a really short version of the story that helps me frame the conversation we're going to have. One, I am not one of those people. I'll see professionals in the industry who kind of just always want to tell you the reason why now's the time to buy, why now's the time to buy, why now's the time to buy. And if someone asks my honest opinion on it, I will give them my honest opinion. But I always tell them what the timing for your personal life can shift, whether or not it's the ideal market time or not. Maybe you have to make a move on it, at least ideal time. But I'll always give my honest opinion to it. And where that framework comes from is back in the Great Recession, between 2008 2010, there was a family I helped who watched brand new homes being built down the street. They tried to move into those homes, and the numbers didn't work. This is at the market's great. It's 2005. Everything is hunky dory. The market, everyone says real estate's the greatest thing. They looked at the payments, it didn't work. As years went past, the values kept going down. Everyone acted like the market was horrible. In 2010, they barely had enough equity to make the same trade into the exact same house from the exact same builder. And that move, when the market, everyone said, was the absolute worst, they actually saved $500 a month. And over the course of the loan would be over $400,000 in payment savings for the exact same trade. Yet everyone acted like that was a terrible time to do a move. And I think that when I realized that, I noticed that what the numbers mean for an individual buyer will vary depending on what their situation is. And when that's the case, you can start to identify what kind of buyers will benefit from what kind of markets. And in the current market, there's definitely opportunities.
So what opportunities do you see in the current market?
There's a couple things. The first thing is there's always going to be a group of buyers who, regardless of what the market's going to do, doesn't like the idea of selling first, right? Or buy, selling first, being homeless, and then shopping for a house. And the alternative that in the really aggressive market we just left is the people who would buy first and then sell their home afterwards. Some people, it didn't matter how stressful, how much you wanted a home, would never put them through that stress. If you have to trade, you need to do it in a market where there's more than 1 month of inventory. We had 1 month of inventory for 2 years, 1 month or less, right? And for the first time, 2-3 months of inventory is available. So for the first time, buyers who under all circumstances would never be okay being homeless or buying first are able to do a contingent offer. So those are the first people. And I'm not saying that necessarily financially it's the best for them to do it at these moments, but it doesn't matter if financially it makes the most sense. Some people are just unwilling to be that buyer who will buy first or sell first. And either not own a home by selling first or buy and own two homes at the same time and then later on sell. Some people are not comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that, then now's a good time to be able to do a contingent offer.
I think that that is so important to understand too. And when we put those deals together, right? I find that a lot of times for the royalty of doing the deal with the seller wants a little bit more money because they're taking on some risk of you trying to get your house sold. And then sometimes you're selling with a high motivation to do a deal. So you might sell for maybe a little less than if you were willing to hold out longer or drive a harder bargain, right? So you give a little bit financially, but you get the ease of the process that you want, the security that you want, and moving from one house to the next. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like that's the one category that we've been circling is if you've been on the sidelines because you're scared of the market, you're scared of not finding a house, and you prefer to do a contingent deal, there's an opportunity to give that a shot right now. That's for sure.
You can't say I want a contingent transaction and super low rates.
Yeah.
That just doesn't happen. So, if you can't say, oh, I don't like where rates are at, and before say, I don't like have to do this first, well, then you're kind of stuck where you're at. You kind of need things to lighten up a little bit for you to be able to do a side-by-side trade, right? The other flip to that is this. If you are trying to move from a larger home, and this is where the trading makes sense, right? Let's talk about another scenario that is maybe not the most financially beneficial, but really isn't that impactful either. It'll feel like it's really impactful, but it's actually not too much. A sideways trade. If you go from a similar home to another one in terms of value, but the kind of home you need to get is slightly different. Maybe you want the same size home, same market, but you want to go from a 2-story to a rambler. If you do that trade now where the market goes up or down, and this is specifically for value, remember that the market impacts both homes. And so if they both move up or down, the only thing that really changes is what the rate is. And so yes, rates are higher, but if rates drop later on, which we expect that they will, just do the trade when you find the right home. So if you want to do a contingent transaction and are okay with later on doing a refinance, you can do that 2-story to a rambler and then wait for rates to drop and then refinance.
Yeah. I again, because the inventory is up, it's easier to do that trade, right? There's a little bit less pressure. You have more options. You have sellers that are more likely to work with you.
Right.
What other opportunities are out there in the market? I think we talked about another buyer was we talked with some other buyers yesterday that might have an opportunity to really do well financially in this market.
Yeah. So those are two scenarios where financially it may not necessarily benefit you, but the circumstances for how you do your trade are nearly impossible, and you need the market to be what it is to be able to do the trade. So you just have to take it as it is. The next two scenarios are really kind of driven towards how is this market going to benefit you. So the market that's worse for people right now is the people who want to move from a really small, lower valued house to a much higher, bigger price home. Because when you do that trade, both houses have inflated. When you're at the top of the market, you're financing a huge part of that purchase. So even though your house has gone up 20%, maybe you have a $500,000 home, trying to buy $1 million home. Maybe when the market was in the past, maybe it was 40% lower. Your house was worth 300, right? But that house was worth 6. So your house has got up 200. That one's gone up 400. So now that you're trying to cover the extra $200,000 gap and finance at a higher rate, you are in a losing proposition. So that flips the other direction. If you are the empty nester with the big home and you're moving down, the amount you're financing should be drastically reduced, and the rate should be a lot less impactful. You might even be able to do the trade and go free and clear. So this market is the perfect time, especially if you go to contingent, to go from the large home to the small home. So this is 100% the truth. If you're an empty nester trying to downsize both in size and price, this is about the perfect time to do it. You have lots of options. Financially, it makes a lot more sense, right? You are the opposite end of the spectrum of the first-time buyer. When prices are low and rates are low, you want to be that's when the first-time buyers jump into the market. When prices are high and rates are high, that's when the empty nester wants to sell the big house and move into that retirement home. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to get it with no financing. If you do have to pay for financing, your loan balance is much smaller. It's much better to get a lower balance with a higher rate than have a higher balance with a lower rate, because you can always refinance later on. And it's quite frankly, like, give me a lot of debt with a low rate or give me low debt with a high rate. I'd rather pay off the $20,000 credit card with a 10% interest rate, 20% interest rate, to pay off the $200,000 mortgage with a 3% interest rate.
Yep. I think that these scenarios, especially for people that were scared of not finding a home in an ultra competitive market, it's so important, people, that you lock in right now if you wanted to move and you own a home, Like there's an opportunity to do it and to not put your family at risk of not having a house, or to not have the backup plan B, I'm going to go rent a short-term rental for a few months or live with family for a few months if I can't find a house, because the inventory is out there. And, I think you hit the nail on the head. The downsizer, the empty nester who's selling a big home near the peak of the market. Yeah, the market's receding a little bit right now, but I think that people can still catch the market and catch the headwinds, because the market's inflated in some places in the Puget Sound region by 20 up to even 35% in Bellevue, beyond where it was last year, which was already a historic market. So if you can catch that on, a little bit of the downturn, but get the bulk of that equity and go move that into a smaller house, a smaller home, this is the ideal time for that. So I'm glad you brought that up. Keane, I just wanted to wrap with saying thank you. You've been such a valuable resource for our clients for so many years. You're a really great friend. And I appreciate you sharing this information. Hey, friends, if you want to get connected with Keane and you want to talk real estate, Keane's an exceptional mind in financing, in investing, in understanding the real estate markets. Just let us know. We'll make sure that you get connected with Keane. Keane, again, thanks for having some time for us today and sharing your thoughts with our public. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate it as well. Thanks for having me on.
All right, appreciate it, guys. See ya.
See you later.